Howard, how are things so far? The first week, we got a taste from some of the banks. What are we looking at right now?
Well, the good news is about over 3/4 of the companies are beating their estimates, 33 out of the 43. The bad news is those estimates were reduced 45%. The quarter's looking like it's going to be a 44% year-over-year decline. So the numbers are going to be significantly down, as well as the cash flow. So EPS are a bad story. What the street's really looking for now is the turnaround in the second half, when we're supposed to move up higher, get a little bit better with the actual gains seen in Q3 and 4 next year. So again, this quarter, very bad earnings. Okay, they'll beat the estimates, but again, the estimates will reduce significantly. But we're looking for the guidance to show that the second half is picked up, that we have passed the heavy part of it and the provisions and the bad numbers, and that we're going to get better in the second half, and that's where we're starting to price off. The PE right now, 27 on the 12 months. It's 30 on 2020. You start to get a little bit better in 2021, which is still high, but at 20 is justified. So again, we need the guidance to show that the second half is the turnaround, and 2021 we start to see some actual growth. But this quarter, numbers are bad. Even though they're beating much lower.
Sounds like, Howard, there's some fancy stuff going on here from the sell side in terms of guessing timing when this whole situation picks up. I mean, it's kind of ironic that there were so few guidance expectations on paper coming into this. Everybody yanked all their guidance, yet somehow we've got 2021 mapped out. We haven't even gotten through 2020.
Yeah, it is somewhat of a fantasy island here. The companies, as you said, have reduced significantly the number of companies that put out the guidance. We were already down to like about 70% were initially doing it. Now we've cut from there. So the analysts, most of them, as you noted, from the sell side, which typically are a bit more optimistic, have the scenario built out. The scenario is built out that the virus will be contained, both on a regional and a national basis. Maybe not right away, but that we pass the major part and companies will be able to reopen. We see that even this week during earnings season, as the big banks started, the virus news dominated the trend of the market. Not each issue. As the earnings come up, they turn to the actual specifics of it, but the virus maintains the control of the trades and also the allocations to some degree. So again, this guidance is going to be very important. Perception now is actually more important than fact.
Howard, we were just looking at the dividend actions that companies have taken. Walk me through this, because I see a lot of negatives. No shock, we've seen that, but it looks like, according to your numbers, this is the worst since when? 2009, a Great Recession?
Yeah. Yes, since the financial crisis. And the big difference between now and then, as far as the issues go, obviously, is that back then companies were cutting. In the first half of this year, we saw 41 companies in the S&P 500 suspend their dividends. It's not a cut, that's a suspension. It is cut off. Back then, they used to cut. Here, the speed of the virus, literally shutting off your sales, cash flow, required the companies to cut themselves down right away. So again, the difficulty here is the enormous number of suspensions, 41, and we've had 22 cuts, including this week's Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo was 1.6% of the index dividends and got cut down 80%. But again, here we are looking at the numbers are behind us. We've had the knee-jerk reaction and then the actual reaction with the earnings provisions, and therefore the cutting off of the cash flow, and therefore the cutting off of the dividends. So we think we've seen the worst of it at this point in time. If we get some progress, not as much as the earnings people are looking for, but some progress in here, the big cap issues should be able to go through and at least ride through the third quarter and into the fourth. I've got about half the third quarter already declared, so we know that the third quarter dividends look like they're going to be down about 6-7%, with maybe about 8% on Q4, which is more estimates, obviously, than reality. Bottom line, for the entire year, since we had a Q1 that was a record amount, Q1 was a record dividend. Just like that February date was a record high, we had a record Q1 dividend. Q2 is not too bad because of the way they did it. Q3 and 4, again, anywhere from 7 to 8% each quarter. The year you may only be down 2%, which is good comparatively. But again, that's because you had such a good start at the beginning. But this has been why, especially in the consumer group. They had to cut themselves down right away. It is hard. As far as the companies that are still increasing, the fewer ones, they're much smaller. The joke is that a penny or so each quarter is the new wink. You're not getting those large increases. Those that are increasing have some cash flow, better position, some depth, but they're increasing very small amounts.